Good morning and welcome to the 50-cent tour of Wednesday, February 27th, 2013. Please find a seat on the Liberty Bus, settle in, and we will commence our tour. I want to do a little reality check today and visit some sites that will help us remember the struggle that we are actually in and the depth of history and persistence that our enemies are armed with. Lest we forget. Yes, Hitler and Stalin did take the guns. Evidently, if you do a search on Google for the Hitler and Stalin took guns, what you mostly will find is disinfo stating that they did not. However, they absolutely did. Guy Fawkes, the gunpowder plot, and how false flag operations have shaped history. Once again, looking back a bit so that we have the correct frame of reference to understand what is going on today, what level and degree of evil we are actually facing. Government preparing for Soviet-style purge of Americans. I don't know how aware you are of what happened in Russia with the Soviets. They killed far more people than were killed in the German Nazi concentration camps. I believe it's something like 20 million. And they killed the artists, the poets, the musicians. They killed the people who had potential to be the future of their nation in a bright and shining way. And a little closer to home, history. Federal government massacred 297 women, children, and men while confiscating weapons to disarm the people in the United States in 1890. We just want to be aware of precedent. Things that have happened in the past set standards and precedents in law, and also emotionally, mentally, these things tend to be repeated and often amplified. Update 22513, FEMA Camp Coffins investigated, owned by the Centers for Disease Control. Do they have something planned? Why does the U.S. government need 30,000 guillotines and over 600 million rounds of hollow point bullets? This article gets pretty specific, showing the locations of army bases, military bases, actual current FEMA camps, places that could easily be used as prison camps for the American people. DHS may be preparing for civil unrest, leases a $10 million firearms facility within 25 miles of Boston. That seems to me to be crossing over between, typically government purchases things from industry. Government is typically not its own industry. Of course, that is no longer true, because when they supposedly bailed out many of the car makers, what they actually did is become large shareholders. Maybe not through the stock market, but they got them by the balls, if you will pardon the expression. Gun companies boycotting law enforcement in anti-gun states grow by more than 700% in 1 week. That is awesome. What a great idea. Of course, when the government starts to lease / purchase / hold run their own manufacturing facilities, perhaps this is a moot point. But this is how one tool that we all still have: boycotting, voting with our dollars, voting with our feet, and I'm glad these companies are doing that. Bank of America faces $10 billion margin call. We'll take a brief look at the banks here. I may have mentioned this yesterday. I think that it's pretty significant. Are their creditors calling them on the phone, pestering them? Hey, you're behind. You haven't paid up. You haven't paid up. Now that would be, how would you like to do that for a job? I always kind of held people in disdain who would actually be collection agents, but perhaps that would be a fun job, to be a collection agent that collects from these banks. I don't know. You probably have to be very careful about your personal security if you did that. But what a thought! Virtually all of the big banks' profits come from taxpayer bailouts and subsidies. I did mention this last week. There was a different article about the same topic. Worth keeping in mind. A message from Heather of One People's Public Trust. Almost every loan, if not every loan, is fraud. No loan was made. Just so we understand the system, how the banking system works, and how they have managed to defraud all of us. And this is an interesting video. As you can see, I have not made it all the way through, so I'm not fully endorsing it or recommending it. Breaking news: the downfall of the Vatican, the Queen, and the system. While this all sounds like very good news, and this video gives some details that you might find interesting or helpful, as my husband always likes to remind me, the powers that be, the powers that were, whatever you want to call them, the man behind the curtain, the guys who are really in control at the top, have studied human behavior for so long that they can anticipate pretty much everything that we might do. Now, when we step outside and listen to God and move ourselves by the law of love, we are much more difficult to predict. So we have that going for us. However, because these guys have studied human behavior, human psychology for so long, they probably were aware that at some point there would be the kind of reaction that is rising up in the liberty/truth movement. And they have probably prepared and made plans for it. And in even, the Vatican and the Queen, these guys may be sacrificing some of their minions. In fact, it's probably fairly likely that they're simply sacrificing some of their minions. We think of these people as being at the top. But is our president at the top? No. That would probably be naive to believe these people are at the top. Napoleon was played by Rothschild. If I had to take a guess, a hip shot, that's who I would guess has had this all planned for some time and is prepared to maybe back up a couple of steps. And then, the plan is probably to install a one-world religion through the Vatican. And Fulford this week said that CIA agents have told him that Jesus's bones are hidden somewhere in the Vatican, that Jesus never rose from the dead. Well, that if enough people believe that, and yesterday I talked about the lies that we've been conditioned to believe. We've been so conditioned to believe lies that even faithful Christians may believe some of these things when they're told to them by people in authority. So there's great potential for a one-world religion to be installed through the Vatican that does not worship the true God. Just a thought. Don't mean to be Debbie Downer. We all need to be on our guard. We may find ourselves walking in the dark a bit, but that's okay, because she who will walk in the dark, and many of you have had substantial experience with that, We are not alone, and I am thankful for that. Thank you for joining me on this tour today. We have much to be thankful for and to hope for. The dawn is coming, and weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Take care, insist on liberty, give somebody a big hug or a kiss, and love one another.